Welcome, guys, to another live session. Oska from Transmute. Thank you guys for tuning in. Today, we are here to discuss a topic that I've had a few members ask me to touch up on, called emotional freedom. How to liberate unwanted emotions and feelings from the body, so we can experience life in a more panoramic way. Really cultivating the feelings of peacefulness and joyfulness. And too often, when we're living under the hormones of stress, we find ourselves very scattered and disconnected with our truth, with our essence, allowing these beautiful energies to move through our body, so we can really share our light with our families, our friends, and just our environment and in the world. So today we'll be discussing some subjects that revolve around emotional freedom, and we'll be going back through some powerful learnings and insights from A New Earth as well. Again, I love resurfacing the teachings of Eckhart Tolle, especially when it comes to the pain body, because I think he's done such a brilliant job to really encapsulate what the pain body means and how it's related to trauma and emotional patterns that can leave us very consumed and suppressed. And without this understanding of this mechanism, we can easily be a victim to these subconscious programs, limiting our experience with life. So, good morning, good afternoon, and hopefully good night to everyone that's tuned in from different parts of the world. And let's get started, guys. Welcome, Lisa. Welcome, Judith. Welcome, Martina. Welcome, everyone. So the first thing I want to talk about is, okay, emotions versus feelings. What is the difference? This is I've meditated and reflected on this quite a bit, and it's very hard to like. I feel, and let me know what you guys. I'm curious to hear your guys' response. What is the difference between an emotion and a feeling? Okay, now they are the same coin, right? With different sides. What's that saying? Different sides of the same coin, right? Emotions versus feelings. And the way I understand it is that emotions are in the present, emotion, energy in motion. So when we feel hungry, when we feel a certain desire, when we feel whatever emotions that are happening in the present moment, whether we feel cold, hot, whatever it is, this is happening and manifesting in this present moment. These are energies or currents of energies moving through our body. We can call these emotions. And whenever we experience emotions in the moment, they then leave behind a chemical blueprint, or sorry, a chemical blueprint called a memory. And as we start to accumulate these memories with emotion, they will be projected back as a feeling. So, for example, when you meet someone, you like that person because you like the emotions that you're feeling towards that person. And once you start to accumulate all these wonderful experiences with that person, then all these emotions and all these wonderful feelings will be accumulated from like to love. And then you'll project that feeling of love towards that person. But when you first meet someone, you're not going to say to them, I love you, because it's a very strong feeling to share with someone that you've just met. But you like that person, you're attracted to their vibration. And over time, as you kind of form all these memories and all these moments where you like being around that person, it becomes a very strong feeling that's then projected back as love. So feelings can be a projection of emotions from memory into the present moment. Does that make sense? And let me know if you guys have a different interpretation to that. But emotions and feelings, right? They are the same coin, different sides, but they are slightly different in my understanding and from my own personal experience. So what is the purpose of emotions? I believe that I feel that we have an emotional guidance system, and within us is this guidance system of emotions that allows us to navigate through life and the interactions of life. Emotions give us a sense of fear or a sense of love, and evolution has equipped us this way, because without emotions, we wouldn't really be able to determine what is a threat and what is something that is warm or something that is loving. So when we have these emotional responses, it can really help us survive from threatening situations. So they have a very important role to play in our survival. But the defense mechanism that is built within us, right? The defense mechanism called the flight or fight response is brilliant and it does an amazing job. And the reason why we're here today is because our ancestors were equipped with this flight or fight response so they could survive. Now, if you're walking through the jungle and you see a lion, the emotional response is fear, and your body goes into this flight or fight response, and you want to run for your life. That's if you don't freeze or want to fight, but common sense will tell you to run. And just say you get away from that lion, there's a memory now that's been implanted into your subconscious of that lion in the jungle that's roared at you and you're scared for your life, and the chemical blueprint is pretty strong. So next time you even next time you're insignificantly close to anything that remotely reminds you of that experience, a feeling will be projected back towards you saying danger, so you can stay alive. Thank you so much, Tanya. So you can stay alive. It's a defense mechanism, right? It's trying to keep you alive. This is a subconscious thing. It is called a flight or fight response, and it's been designed in a way so we can predict and protect ourselves from outside dangers, which is great because, again, you want to know if there is a lion before even being in that experience or face to face with a lion. So then you can survive and you can be smarter each time because you have these memories that are being projected out into feelings, and these feelings are telling you how to navigate through life to survive, because you're the number one primary objective in life is to survive. Now, which is great. But let's just say, you go through an experience, because how life was thousands of years ago compared to now is completely different. We can all agree on that. We don't just have physical stress now, we have emotional stress and we have mental stress. And most of the time, this emotional and mental stress is happening from equations that we're kind of rehearsing in our own minds and dwelling. And sometimes we're forecasting future events before they even happen. Sometimes we're dwelling in the past, and all these levels of thinking is creating this emotional stress, keeping us stuck in this flight or fight response. Now, which is a dilemma because, this is where a lot of this is the brewing or the foundation for a lot of psychological conditions to form, because, it's such an intricate level of the complexity of how your mind works is so intricate that no one can really measure exactly how an individual brain operates, or how even a thought is operating, or where a thought is. And that's how, mysterious the mind is. But at the same time, given its power, it's very easy to kind of create these psychological conditions where you're living in this state of fear, because no one really knows exactly how. There isn't a manual on how to conquer your mind. It's something that you have to discover through your own self-awareness and self-development. Now, before I read some of your guys' responses, I'll just finish what I'm saying. So now, if you go through an experience and you have this traumatic experience, let's just say in this experience you go through heartbreak, and you have a relationship, and in that relationship you've been abused verbally, physically, and it's a very bad traumatic experience, and you walk away from that experience, but you've got these memories of all this stress. And this is no different, going back to the example of the lion, of the memory of the lion, because there's that memory of an experience where it has changed your emotional state and it's created so much stress that you needed to survive, and you went into this flight or fight response. But even though you didn't flee and run off, the response was very much still alive in your body, right? Now, let's fast forward and let's just say you've walked away from that abusive relationship, and now, 6 months, 6 years, doesn't matter, some point in the future, you meet someone else in your life and they're trying to get close to you. What do you think is going to happen? Not in all cases, but the way the mechanism is designed. And this is the truth for many, many people that try and, be open to new relationships, but they've got a lot of trauma from the past. So when a person then tries to get close to me and I've gone through this traumatic experience, it can, I'm not saying it will, trigger off this defense mechanism where I want to protect myself, right? And I'm going to push that person back because that person symbolizes danger. It symbolizes, a threat to my well-being because I've had someone come into my life. I've had someone be close to me, and look what they did to me. They put me through all this trauma, and now I've got another person. And my subconscious, the flight or fight response, what I've been equipped with, what evolution has equipped me with, is now pushing that person away because why? My body naturally is trying to predict and protect my well-being so this person doesn't hurt me. And this is why sometimes people self-sabotage relationships before they even get close to someone because it's subconscious mechanisms playing out and they're not even aware of it. They're so consumed in this mechanism that it completely takes over their body, and now they're pushing this person away from them. And that this other person could be a really nice soul, could be a very beautiful soul, and could be nothing like the last person the individual was in a relationship with, but the subconscious is too strong. It's trying to protect too strongly because it doesn't want you to feel like that. And without the self-awareness and understanding how these feedback loops work, thank you guys for supporting the channel, Barbara and Sam, thank you. And without understanding how these subconscious mechanisms work, then we're a victim. We're a victim of past experiences. We're a victim of circumstance, and we're a victim of subconscious mechanisms again because we don't have the self-awareness to understand these feedback loops that are governing our lives and our moods that are now creating this this emotional barrier where people cannot get close to us. Now, this is just one example. All right, and the same mechanism can be now related to public speaking. Like you got up one day, you went to public speak in front of all these people, and your speech went wrong. You started getting anxiety. You started to stutter. People started giving you this awkward energy, and it was a horrible experience. And people were laughing at you, and you had to walk off stage, and you started crying. It was just dreadful. Fast forward 3 years into the future, 4 years into the future, and your boss goes, "Hey, guess what, Oska? I've got a presentation for you. You got to go speak in front of 500 people, and this is part of your job. This is what we need from you. Please memorize this and go present that." What do you think is going to happen? That I'm going to identify with this information. I'm going to associate it to past memories subconsciously, right? And it's going to respond with feelings of doubt, feelings of negativity, feelings of scarcity, feelings of inadequacy, feelings of just no confidence. And all these feelings are going to give me anxiety. And I'm going to be like, I can't do this. I can't do this because I have a memory from the past that was so dreadful. And it's no different. That memory is no different from a lion trying to eat me, right? Because the body doesn't know any logic. It doesn't know the difference whether you're doing a presentation and people are laughing at you and you're stressing out, or a lion is chasing you. The body doesn't understand. The body is still going through the same physiological responses. So then I'm looking at the new presentation and my body's like, shit, danger, danger, danger. And I'm not going to have any positivity going into this presentation. I'm going to be very, very anxious, very unsettled, because we identify, we associate, and we respond. And that response is going to be through a past memory. Emotional patterns are going to start surfacing. And now all these patterns are going to represent what? Stress, anxiety, doubt, negativity, suffering, right? Scarcity. And all that's going to keep me in a very low vibrational state. And unless I have the self-awareness and the self-development tools to reprogram my brain in that moment and go into it with openness, then I'm not going to be going there as my full potential. And this is why we really need to understand how this mechanism works, because without understanding this mechanism, then we become victims to the mechanism. And I used to do a lot of seminars for big companies on mind body science, and it was a great time in my life presenting this information. And I realized that without understanding the mind and body, and I'm not saying like I'm an expert or anything, but just understanding the basics of how your mind and body works gives you control and gives you power to then overcome certain challenges and certain anxieties and stresses, certain anxieties and stresses in your life. And without this knowledge of how things are working, we are so easily we so easily succumb to the ego and to doubt that it leaves us in this lower vibrational state. So it's always a great idea to understand how your mind and body works. Just a simple, just the basics. And when it comes to how the subconscious operates and how and this is revolving around emotional freedom, it's very important. And then now, to give you one more example, just to really install this mechanism, and I've used this example a lot. It's like driving a car, right? First time you drive a car, you learn how to drive a car. And again, I'm using these examples to give you guys an understanding how subconscious programming works, so then we can attain emotional freedom. The first time you drive a car, you're very focused. You're looking at the car and you're looking at you're present, and you're feeling the drive. You're feeling the steering wheel. You're looking at your mirrors. And the level of presence is so sharp, and you're there so nervous, so anxious, and you're learning how to drive, and you're acquiring all the neural networks, and you're starting to really formulate and create all these new insights on how to drive a car. And you do it once, you do it twice, you do it a dozen times, and there's going to come a point when you jump in that car and you don't have to think about it anymore, because it's a subconscious program. It's playing out for you, and it's just, you don't even have to think about it. Today, you jump in your car, you don't have to think about it. You just, boom, it's a subconscious program. Allowing your consciousness to project into the future, or what I've got to do tomorrow, New Year's, I've got to do this. It allows your consciousness to project into the past. Oh, I did this yesterday, blah, blah, blah. Your consciousness can go to the past and future, because this subconscious program is playing out how to drive a car. You don't even have to think about it. You've mastered it. So what else have you mastered in your life that you don't have to think about it through mental rehearsal? Have you mastered suffering? Have you mastered how to suffer, because you've been suffering for so long that you don't even have to think about it anymore because you are suffering? Have you mastered guilt? Do you feel guilty all the time that now it's a program being played out in your subconscious? You've become so good at it. Have you mastered anger? Have you been angry so much in your life that now you're not even have to try to be anger? Anger just lives at your doorstep. And at any point, anything insignificant triggers you, anger is just going to take over you like an avalanche, and that's going to be projected onto whoever is next to you, right? Have you mastered sadness? Have you been sad for so long that now nothing really makes you happy, because you've rehearsed it, you rehearsed it to the point where it's become a part of you? You've got this sadness, you've got this heaviness. Have you mastered victimization, because you've been bullied, you've been, you've done this, and you've done, so many people have done wrong by you and betrayed you in your life, that you've always been a victim of life, and now it's like bad things always happen to me? Have you mastered that level of program? The point is, what do you mentally rehearse over and over again, over and over again? If we don't have the self-awareness to really keep our thoughts in check, then this complex, intricate instrument called the brain, the mind, will just run randomly. And this is where but this is where a lot of psychological conditions can manifest, because we don't have the self-awareness to keep our mind in check. You have to, bye Akia, thanks for tuning in. You have to really be the gatekeeper of your thoughts, first of all. Now, going back into mastering these states, when we don't have self-awareness, it's so, and something happens to, something negative happens to us, and we don't have the awareness of really rehearsing these these feelings and thoughts, then it's so easy to master programs that are not beneficial to our highest potential, not beneficial to our soul, not beneficial to our well-being, right? So if you go through something traumatic, and then it really hurts you and it really stresses you out, and it creates this anxiety, I can guarantee you most people are going to start talking about it the next day to their friends, and they're going to talk about it to their family and their friends and their work colleagues, and they're going to resurfacing these feelings, excuse me, and which is fine. It's a very common thing to do. But what that does is it just keeps rehearsing and rehearsing and rehearsing this level of vibration. You're just programming this vibrational state in the body, and you're programming this program, and you're enriching the circuitry systems in your brain, and the neural networks are starting to form together like you're driving a car. But now you're not driving a car, you're driving this negative program of suffering. Something's traumatic's happened to you, and it might be justified, which is great. If it's justified, it's justified. But again, the body doesn't know any logic. So you're programming this negative state and this negative feeling, and then you keep talking about it, which just reinforces this chemical addiction to this internal chemistry. And over again, you keep on, harboring and fostering these emotions until it becomes so integrated within your DNA, within your body, that you are the suffering. You are the suffering, and it is so strong that you don't have the self-awareness to really understand what is happening in your body, because you're so accustomed to it. This new abnormal state has become the normal state. So how, it's very, I just think it's so essential to understand these things, because when you really grasp this, the next time you find yourself rehearsing something, because shit happens. We're always going to have negative things happen to us, because apart from taxes, malfunction, disorder, and death, that is guaranteed. There's always going to be something that malfunctions. There's going to be some sort of disorder in your life, and there's going to be death. And if you don't have the self-awareness and the openness, and have this level of creative thinking to process these emotions, what will happen is it'll consume you. It'll consume you, and you'll start to then feed your body this emotional diet and start rehearsing these programs, and they will then become the software in your interface, and they will start to then govern your moods, govern your behaviors and your actions, and you are going to be living this life based on experiences that don't even represent your full potential, right? So now, once you have this awareness, next time something happens and you see yourself catching yourself rehearsing this, starting to fire and wire these neurons and acquire these neural networks, and really form a program, you can stop it and go, okay, well, I don't want to create this program. The program I'm going to create is through awareness, and I'm going to now substitute that with some maybe affirmations, maybe a healthy perspective, maybe some breath work. And you have these tools so you can catch yourself before you form the neural networks and before you form the feedback loops that will be governing your moods. Because through conditioning and throughout our lives, I can guarantee you, for most of us, we have acquired programs that don't represent our highest excitement, our highest potential, our highest well-being. So now when we do the work, that's what doing the work means, is that when you're triggered, you can become aware of the trigger and go, okay, well, what is this trigger trying to show me? Well, there's obviously a part of me that isn't free. There's a part of myself that isn't free. And when you start to think like this and you start to change your paradigm, triggers are opportunities for you to grow. So next time you get triggered, you don't have to justify, blame, and project this negative energy towards the person that triggered you. You can actually thank that person and say, thank you for exposing me to a part of myself that I need to heal. Thank you for exposing me to a part of myself where I haven't realized that I am extraordinary, right? And when you start to become aware of, okay, now, like I've just explained to you how this mechanism works, but so now someone's triggered me, and I've become aware that, hey, I've reacted really with a lot of energy in a negative way towards this person. I lashed out at them. First, you apologize. Absolutely. That's the first thing to do, is you apologize straight away and you say, sorry for lashing out like that. Thank you for making me aware. And you do the right thing. You do the humble thing, because if you don't have the strength to apologize, then you're not going to have the self-awareness to really go within and start to change this. Okay. So once you've apologized, you've done the right thing, then you can really start to go, okay, well, why did I get so angry? Why did that? What do I believe subconsciously so much that when that person said that, I had to lash out at them? Because there's this emotional wound, or there's this feedback loop, or there's this program you've learned so well that you need to shine your self-awareness to now. And once you start becoming aware how you reacted, the next time it happens, you're going to have more, you're going to have more chances, or you're going to have you're going to have more awareness, should I say, not change. You're going to have more awareness to kind of become aware of your reaction. And the more you can do this, the more your space you're going to create between the trigger and the reaction. And over time, you'll be able to respond because you will have the self awareness to regulate your nervous system before it tilts. When you, when your nervous system tilts, you've got no chance. I'll tell you now, you've got no chance because the energy is already taken over you, and you become highly unconscious. And we're going to learn that in a sec. That's the pain body, and you just got to project that out like a pressure cooker, right? But before that happens, there's a gap. There's a gap, and through meditation, through breath work, through insight, the gap starts to kind of create more space between your reaction versus response. And when that happens, when you get triggered, you're going to be like, oh, feeling angry, breathe. And once you can breathe, you can just respond. And sometimes that response is being silent and maybe going for a walk until you calm down. But whatever it is so alien to the feedback loop that you have been so it is so alien and so different from the feedback loop that has been reinforced for years of conditioning, that it starts to weaken the feedback loop, because now you have put the brake on the automatic programs that govern your life. The brake's been put on, right? Because you're not reacting in that way anymore. You've done something so different, completely different. And what that does is it starts to create a new feedback loop. It starts to create more self-awareness and starts to weaken this feedback loop. So these programs that are governing your life that are really no good for your well-being or your interactions, whatnot, they start to weaken. And this is what self-awareness is. This is when we start to become aware of the self. We start to become aware of our reactions, our responses, and we start to become aware of our cognitive processing, our thoughts. And this is also called metacognition. Metacognition is a term in neuroscience when you are aware of your thoughts, no different to mindfulness, maybe just a different term. But once you can become aware of your thoughts, your feelings, you're no longer the thoughts, you're no longer the feelings. What are you? You are the conscious observer. This is your power, becoming the conscious observer. When you can be the observer of your thoughts, your feelings, your propensities, your emotions, your reactions, then you are operating from a higher state of consciousness, and you start to become more aware of the programs you've mastered. They no longer serve you. You become aware of the feedback loops that are governing your moods. They no longer serve you. And through self-awareness, through having the ability to put the brake on and creating a gap to regulate your nervous, it's no different to, I guess, when a baby starts to cry, and as the baby starts to learn how to regulate its nervous system, it's not throwing these tantrums anymore, and that's what humans do when they lash out at one another. It's just they're throwing tantrums at one another because they can't control their emotions. And it's no different from a child throwing a tantrum. It's just this overactive nervous system, and it's this energy that they don't know how to control. And some people are abusive, some people are violent, some people shut down, and it just depends on your personality and how you've kind of conditioned yourself to deal with overwhelming feelings. But it all comes down to how well you regulate the nervous system. And I think that is a skill that we all should be learning, because that's going to keep you alive for a very long time, is your nervous system, right? When you can master your nervous system, when you know how to regulate your nervous system, when you know how to use breathing, meditation, yoga, anything that helps you regulate your nervous system, this is a powerful tool that's going to allow you to stay calm. And when you stay calm, you have better control over your emotions, because I can tell you now, people that are angry, people that are suffering depression, depressed, their nervous system isn't calm. It's just full of unsettled energy. But when you learn how to calm your nervous system, you can better control your responses. So that pretty much is to touch up on how these mechanisms work. Just really lightly, just to give you guys an understanding that if you want emotional freedom, it's not just about, look, you can completely detach from your thoughts through understanding that you are the observer, you are the awareness, and adopting the teachings from Muji and all these amazing gurus, and just becoming the perceiver of all the phenomena in your life, which is great. But when you live in a Western world and you've got a career and you've got a family and you've got all these different personalities to deal with, that can be very difficult. All right. That can be very difficult. So, you know, for me, when I meditate, it's very easy to detach and I can connect and all that. But I'm not meditating 24/7. I'm out there and I'm dealing with a lot of, frustration and a lot of unsettled energy sometimes at work. So when I do get triggered, having this understanding, having this knowledge how to regulate my nervous system, understanding, okay, well, this is a program that I don't want to entertain. Well, I got triggered. So now I really want to know why I got triggered so I can respond next time. Understanding all this is going to be so essential when it comes to then, really building this emotional armor around yourself so you can have resilience in life. And that's great, and for me that works really well when I'm out there doing all these things, because I get triggered all the time. It happens. Like, people get triggered, not all the time, but we're humans, we get triggered. But it's how long do you stay triggered for? What is that refractory period? How long are you going to stay in that mood for? And having these insights and understanding how these mechanisms work is always going to be an amazing thing, because you can snap yourself out of it straight away, because you've got the tools, you've got the knowledge, you've got the insight, and you understand what an emotional diet is. You understand what mental rehearsal does to your nervous system. You understand the importance of calming your nervous system. And these are all great things when it comes to emotional freedom. Now, living under the hormones of stress. Okay. um, stress is the number one killer in society, and I don't think people realize how important stress management is. And for a lot of people, stress is just an abstract subject, and they associate it with, oh yeah, when I feel pressure, I'm stressed. When I feel a little bit overwhelmed, I'm stressed. I'm here to tell you that stress is a very unsettled energy that accumulates in your body, and it accumulates and accumulates and accumulates, and your cells start to absorb it. And over time, this unsettled energy causes uneasiness in your body when you're not feeling easy. And this can create dis-ease when you're not at ease with yourself. Stress is the number one killer. It is killing people faster than anything else, because today in our 21st century living, we have mental stress, we have emotional stress, we're stressing about other people, we're stressing about finances, we're stressing about this, we're stressing about relationships, we're stressing about the way we look, we're stressing about our internet connection, we're stressing about our mortgage repayments, we're stressing about this and that, and it's just creating all these stressful energy in the body, right? Especially if you're in a toxic relationship and you're dealing with it every single day, that is just creating more and more stress. And sometimes this stressful state becomes the new state, and we don't know how it feels to live in harmony. They did this experiment where they took baby chimpanzees away from their mother, and they scanned their brains, and a part of the brain called the amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain that represents, I guess, how much stress, how your levels of stress and anxiety. Because if you have an enlarged amygdala, it often represents that you are a very stressed out individual, right? There's a lot of fear in your body compared to someone that has a normal sized amygdala. Funny enough, on a different note, apparently psychopaths have like the smallest amygdalas because they don't feel any emotions at all, which is a different subject. But anyway, so the chimpanzee, the baby chimpanzee, was taken away from the mother. They scanned the brain, and they found that the fear center in the brain, the amygdala, which is part of the limbic brain, the emotional brain, was greatly enlarged for obvious reasons, because the stress that it felt being taken away from its mother, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, it was returned back to its mother a couple of months later, a couple of weeks later. I don't know the time frame, doesn't really matter. And then, it was living normally in a very, I guess, loving relationship with the mother, and the mother was taking care of it. Anyway, months later, they scanned the brain, and it was exactly the same size, like exactly the same size. The amygdala hadn't shrunken. And they've done this test also with mice. They got mice, and they rattled the cage, they shake the cage, and they created so much stress for the mice. They scanned the brain, and the part of the amygdala was really, really heightened. And then they put the mice in a very, beautiful cage, I guess, where there was water, there was food, there was mazes, and there was all these great things. And they didn't shake it and play loud noises and create all this havoc and chaos in the cage. And months later, they scanned the brain, and a part of the amygdala hadn't shrunken. So what does that mean? It means that if you have gone through, if you're sitting here going, I'm not stressed, I don't stress, like my life is fine. But if you've gone through something stressful in your life in the past, I don't care if it happened 10 years ago, chances are from these studies, there's going to be a part of your brain, the amygdala, which is still stressed because we know through childhood trauma that one traumatic experience from childhood can affect you for the rest of your life, right? Just because you're sitting here today going, I'm not stressed, I feel okay, but you've gone through some stressful shit in your life, you can still be carrying that stressful energy, which can slowly be eating away at your nervous system, your hippocampus, and all these other things that the cortisol does when it's in excessive amounts. Not to mention adrenal fatigue and all these other conditions, and that then lead to your thyroid and endocrine system, blah blah blah. But having the point is that you may be calm today, but you've gone through something stressful in your past. But if you don't have the tools or the right support system or meditation, whatever it is, to flush out this unsettled energy, then you're living under the hormones of stress. Now, in a more extreme example, if you've got a stressful life, if you've got a stress at work, if you've got a stressful relationship, if you're watching the news, stressing out all the time, if you're just a stressful person, that's just accumulating all this stressful energy, right? The brain only has a certain capacity to hold on to nervous energy before it discharges it into different parts of the body. The brain only has a certain capacity to hold on to nervous energy before it discharges it into different parts of the body. Oh, my back, my heart, this, eczema, that. Like there's all these conditions, autoimmune conditions, and all these things that we don't even know how to cure. That's, in my opinion, from my research, and I'm not an expert, is coming from overactive stress hormones, especially the adrenals. They're pumping out cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine at such excessive amounts. Like your body feels like it's running from a lion 24/7, 7 days a week. And how long do you think you can survive running from a lion 7 days a week, 24/7? Because you're stressing out all the time. And when it's become so subconscious, you've mastered stress. Going back to that example I told you guys about driving a car, you don't even have to be stressed anymore. You are just stressed. That's what you are. And everyone has a different capacity on how to handle this unsettled energy before it's discharged. So, if, for example, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you start thinking about this presentation because you haven't done public speaking in 20 years and the last experience has been so dreadful and traumatic, now tomorrow you've got this public event where you've got to speak, you wake up in the middle of the night and you start thinking about it and you can't sleep, what does that do? It starts to trigger off the flight or fight response, right? Your body starts believing that it's running for its life. It's in danger because the stress response hasn't equipped, evolution hasn't adapted to modern day lifestyles. It takes millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years for us to adapt and evolve and go through all these harsh conditions before we can evolve and metamorph. It's the metamorphosis between maybe a human being into the next leap of evolution. But at the moment, our nervous systems are equipped to be living in the jungle or in the forest with nature. We're not equipped to be living these, 24/7 lifestyles on the computer, on your phones, and mentally stressing and emotionally stressing over all these crap. Our nervous system isn't designed to do that because we are still going through the same stress response like we're being chased by a lion. If I'm sitting there waking up in the middle of the night thinking that I've got a presentation tomorrow, it's no different. It's no different. I promise you that. So then, if thoughts can trigger the stress response, tomorrow hasn't even happened yet, but one thought can trigger off such a stressful response in my body that I start getting anxiety. I start to sweat. I can't go back to sleep because my temperature's risen. Then that tells you that thoughts can kill. Because if I keep living under the hormones of stress, I don't have the energy because what the stress response does, the flight or fight response, it takes all the blood from your visceral area, your abdominal region, where it's nourishing everything, your colon, your digestive system, it's all being nourished for blood. It squeezes the blood out to your extremities so you can run for your life, fight or flight. or it can freeze and shut down. But the blood's taken from all these long-term building projects that the body does for tissue repair, to protein synthesis, to all these immune support and all these kind of amazing things to keep you alive for a long time. All that's been suppressed. So you can now go into this short-term danger mode, this emergency state, so you can run for your life. But how long can you run from a lion before you start to break down? And this is what happens. This is why we start to break down, because we're living under the hormones of stress. We want emotional freedom. We want peacefulness. But there we are drinking coffee every single day, trying to camouflage how stressed we are, how tired we are, how exhausted we are, because we're running this marathon and we don't know how to connect to our nervous system to calm it down. Then we wonder why we have anxiety. We wonder why we can't sleep. We wonder why we're frustrated all the time. We wonder why, negative shit always happens to us, because we don't have the awareness of what's truly happening. We're just camouflaging it, and we do it so well. We camouflage it so well because we don't really know how to go within to heal the body. Yeah, we go to retreats and we watch all these amazing things and we read these books, but you need to do the work by going within and feeling your nervous system. Again, everything comes back to the nervous system. This is the backbone of healing, is understanding how calm you are, right? So when you're living under the hormones of stress, over time, it can really change a lot of things, neurologically, biologically, epigenetically, everything, as Ash Waterman's mentioning. And epigenetics is a phenomenal subject. Epi meaning above, genetics meaning the genome. So, we're made out of trillions and trillions and trillions of cells. Outside of a cell is a membrane. You penetrate the membrane, you have then your organelles, your biological equipment. Then you have the nucleus, and you go inside the nucleus and you have chromosomes. And inside the chromosomes, these double helixes, you have DNA, but the DNA is broken down into certain sections called genes. These are your genes, right? And when genes turn on and off, this is called epigenetics. Genes are upregulated when we have amazing experiences that promote health, that represent health, and that start to release proteins that help fight off cancer, that help fight off that help fight off aging, that help fight off pathogens. But when we're drinking, when we're being negative, when we're looking at life with this anxious perception, then it starts to down-regulate certain genes that are helping support the immune system. So every day, depending on the way you're thinking and your way you're feeling, your genetics are changing. Things are changing, and this is evident because you get two twins with the same genetic coding, but one dies at 70 and the other one dies at 50. Why? If they've got the exact same DNA, because they've had different experiences, and they all come down to different factors from perception, lifestyle, and experience, right? Which is another big subject we can cover another day. But the point is, when you're living under the hormones of stress, that it can start to change your genetics. It can start to change your genetics. So if your life expectancy was, say, 100, and you're stressing out all the time, and your body believes that it's running from a tiger and a lion, and it's always in this emergency state, and you don't have all the blood here to nourish your digestive system, then the digestive system starts to, feel not the best. Your colon starts, all the blood from your colon is gone now, and you're starting having these colon issues. And then, all these gut issues, and then this and that, then your thyroid and your endocrine system is completely out of whack, because one gland called the adrenal glands is taking up all the energy, pumping out cortisol and pumping out epinephrine and norepinephrine, that the thyroid, that all the other glands, the pancreas and the thyroid, and that's what we manifest type 2 diabetes, and we have thyroid issues, and we can't metabolize our food, and we can't sleep, and we got this and that. It's your endocrine system. Your endocrine system is out of whack because one gland is just taking too much energy that the other glands can't do their job, because there's only so much energy, vital life force energy, you have. So when we want emotional freedom, another thing to take into consideration is, am I living under the hormones of stress? And if you are living under the hormones of stress, you got to start to write down what is stressing you out, right? Because you don't, you know, And again, I'm going to go deep into this in the course that I'm doing um, on Inside Timer starting February, which the first module is stress management. For those who want to join, there's only 10 limited spots. I think some are taken already. So please check out the 6-month course, an intensive course that goes right into all these subjects. If you guys are resonating with this information and want to work with me, check out that on the page. But stress management is so essential. So, obviously you guys are on the app, which is great because you're meditating, which is fantastic. Breath work, which we're going to do at 7 o'clock. Another great thing, exercising, having the right foods. But at the same time, you got to have a right mindset, because as more and more problems manifest in life, it's your perception and it's the way you perceive these problematic equations that are presenting themselves. Because again, there is no problem out there. It's the way we define life, and it's the way we give definitions and framework to life and reality that becomes problematic, because the problems are in your mind. Out there is out there is out there. It's just a, it's beautiful chaos called life, just happening all at the same time, and everyone living these amazing lives, interacting in this school called Earth. But when there's certain things that aren't going towards your narrative, or when there's things that aren't going towards your expectations, or blah 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 blah, we start to define them as problems, and the problems are only happening in your own mind. So having like a really creative mind that allows you to look at a problem as maybe not a problem, but as a learning, as a teaching, is something that's really going to help you to overcome so much in life. Because when you, and I'll give you an example. There was this documentary I was watching, and this lady had, planned her whole life. She was moving to another country, and she wanted to get married, and she was going to start her practice, and she was going to do all these amazing things, and she had it all kind of mapped out in her brain. And she went overseas, and she started her practice, and all of a sudden she started getting these really bad headaches, really bad headaches, really bad headaches. And then she went to the doctor, and the doctor did a scan, and she had a big tumor. And she couldn't believe it, that everything in her life that she had planned and had expectation for had now been pretty much kind of put on the sideline, because she was kind of dealing with this tumor. And all her expectations, all her goals, her visions, they've all been crumbled in this one moment. So then, she was dealing with her tumor, and and everything had kind of, all her plans had just kind of washed away and just faded out into the background. And one day, she in this documentary, she explained she walked in from work into her house, and she's like, I can't, I hate my life. Why did this have to happen to me? I hate what you've done to me. And in that moment, as she was hating her life and had this victim mindset, she just realized, all this time I've been talking to my tumor as if it was something negative, as if it was something that I hated, as if it was something that was taking my life away. But really, it's made me appreciate life more. Really, it's made me love more. Really, it made me realize how precious life is. And it's been a big teacher in my life. And I should be thanking it. I should be really being grateful to everything that it's taught me, because without that, I wouldn't have been able to realize and love unconditionally, and really not take life for granted. So from that moment, she started to love her tumor. She changed her perception. She changed her perception completely, transverse, changed it. And the feedback loops and the messages neurologically for the nervous system, because everything's connected, the messages she was sending to a tumor was love, 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 gratitude. And she was just saying thank you and thank you and thank you. And you guys know where this is headed. 6 to 9 months later, she got scanned, and it was gone, gone, gone. And this is a real life story. I'm 1,000,000% sure that this lady wouldn't be lying about it, because it is a real life story. So I know that it is truth. Not only that, but I do believe in the placebo. I do believe in the power of my own mind, and I understand that when you have a negative perception towards something, that it changes everything physiologically. Everything changes. But when you can start to change your perception, because you go from scanning life, because if you want to scan life to be threatening and anxious, then that's the messages that life you're giving your body. You're giving your body these messages of anxiety and unsettledness and worry, and it's just creating this really, really unstable state in the body. But if you scan your environment to be loving, to be fruitful, to be joyful, to be peaceful, and you look at everyone like, look, this is another beautiful universe experiencing life, and and you start, whatever it is, you just start becoming, you start growing in light, and just starting embracing everything, and all the way to your triggers, really thanking your triggers to exposing you to parts of yourself you need to heal, just changing incremental changes. It makes the biggest difference in the world when it comes to emotional freedom, because now every moment you experience something that is trying to tilt your nervous system to be stressed, you've got this positive outlook that is so fierce and sharp that no one can take that away from you. That just changes the whole paradigm. It shifts your whole mood, your whole state of being. It's like, no, yes, this shit happened, but it's taught me how to be more wise. It's taught me, it's built insight. It's given me wisdom. It's given me, the teachings that now I can potentially, if I ever have the opportunity, help someone else, whatever it is. And you have to get creative in your own mind, because everyone is different, looking at things from a different perception. Like, I think they made a song on this. Things are different when you consider things from a different point of view. There's a song in the 90s, I think. A great song. But anyway, the point is changing your point of view. Like, always doing your best to obtain a healthy perspective makes you a warrior of life. Because for some people that is next to impossible to do, because say they are so consumed by their egos. um so yeah, there's so many things, when it comes to emotional freedom. But this is a subject that, I do like to talk about. And I'll do another live on this in the coming weeks, to really touch up on just more and more insights that really help us just build the not only the emotional resilience, but the awareness to understand what's happening in our body, right? What are we feeling? And because when you like when you're so identified to every thought and feeling, you're in one state of experience: thought identification, feeling identification, and that becomes your paradigm, that becomes your experience. And it's a very psychological, physical experience, right? Very solidified through what you're feeling. But when you become the observer of your feelings, the observer of your thoughts, it's a complete different state of experience, right? So once you experience that experience, then everything starts to change, because you're no longer the program, you're no longer the feelings, you're no longer the emotions that are consuming you. You're looking at it from a higher state of experience. You're looking at it from a higher state of awareness. And, you know, whenever you can attain a higher level of awareness, then you go from thought identification to thought observation, right? And being the observer gives you more awareness, gives you more control, gives you more freedom. Because when we are so identified with our emotions and feelings, they can keep us in this prison, right? They can keep us in this prison. They can keep us contained within the vibration that we're feeling. And the more we go out and talk about it, because sometimes naturally we want to talk about what we've gone through. And this just feeds the emotions alive. This just kind of feeds and reinforces the chemistry. And remember how programming works, that the more we rehearse something and the more we rehearse a certain emotional state, the more subconscious it becomes, that we don't even have to be aware of it anymore. We don't even have to rehearse it anymore. It's just a part of our makeup. And if we're doing this with negative programs that are keeping our vibrational state low, then that's going to slowly start to eat away at our well being. And generally, this happens because our level of identification is so strong that it has suppressed our self awareness, and we don't really have the self awareness to observe the internal mechanism of what's happening. But once we start to work on that and we start to realize that we are the conscious observer, that our power is in the consciousness, and we start to look deeper into that, we can start to change our thoughts, right? With positive affirmations, for example. We can start to change our feelings through breath work, because feelings or emotions are just currents of energy. And if you're open and you don't resist and you don't identify with these feelings, then your body will naturally start to flush it out, right? And neuroscientists say that emotions only last 90 seconds in the body before they dissipate into another emotion. Some people might argue with that and say, well, I've been angry for days, or I've been angry for so long. It's because of the narrative. It's because of the narrative. Because as soon as a narrative plays out, then it'll keep the feelings alive, right? It'll keep the feelings alive in the body. But if you leave the narrative out and you just become aware of whatever you're feeling in the moment that doesn't really serve your presence or your well-being, you just feel it. And a good practice is to go to the core of that feeling, go right to the core of that feeling and just breathe and just breathe. There's going to come a point when that feeling that was so strong in energy, and now you're using your breathing to regulate your nervous system, will start to dissipate its frequency. It will start to change its frequency. Anger might start to then transverse into resentment, to then guilt, and it'll just start to weaken until your body burps it out. And then you'll find below the turbulence or the waves of emotion crashing, there is this peacefulness, there is this underlining dimension of presence. And this is what the great teachers are teaching, that when you can learn to drop the narrative, change the attention from identifying to observation, and just be aware and feel without thinking, and just stay in that state and be open and create space, you watch the transformation of that energy, because that narrative isn't playing out going, yeah, but she said this and he said that, and how could they do this and blah, blah, blah. This interaction between the mind and feeling, it's creating a feedback loop. It's creating an entanglement, right? It's creating this memory to become more reinforced, and the chemistry to become more alive. It's the narrative that you're playing out. It's the story you're telling yourself. Okay. But once you can leave that out and you can feel, this is the doorway to emotional freedom. So no matter what you're going through, if you become so present in the moment, you will transcend everything. You will transcend your emotions, you'll transcend your thoughts, you'll transcend your body. You'll become the ocean, right? The raindrop that merges with the ocean. When we're living in the illusion of separation, we are the raindrop. We are just separate to everyone else. But when we really truly discover our power and our essence and our truth, we merge with the ocean. And this is the truth, is that we are all connected through this invisible field called spirit, called consciousness, call it whatever you want, but it's connecting you, me, and everyone else in this ether beyond our capacity of truly understanding its power. And its power is so immense. There is a field called spontaneous remissions where people can heal themselves from life threatening conditions. And again, you've got to really look into it to understand this field, but it does happen. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but there is this powerful energy within us. And it goes to the saying that I learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza, that the intelligence that created the body is the intelligence that can heal the body if you learn how to get out of the way and you allow this energy to move through the body. There is this power within you. I mean, you're not in charge of your heartbeat. There's a power that does it. You're not in charge over the millions and millions and billions of chemical reactions happening every moment. There's a power that does it. You're not in charge of protein synthesis and transcription in your biology. There's a power that does it. You're not in charge of digestion. There's a power that does it. There is a power within you that is so immense, that is so strong, that when we truly understand the immense power that we're carrying around with us, the light we're carrying around with us, then all this, emotional equations and variables and all these things we harbor and carry around with us, it's just trivia. It's just trivia, because once you can penetrate through all that and you connect with the underlying dimension, which is your inner presence, and you cultivate that and you start to increase and strengthen your connection with that, it will be such a solid foundation of transformation when it comes down to transversing your energy from a vibrational output to another vibrational output. Flood your body full of attention and leave the narrative out. Just just stay in that attention. Just breathe and meditate in that attention, and then your body starts to raise its mana, strengthen its mana, which is a Polynesian word for spiritual strength. And through that, your vibration starts to raise. And this is such a, when it comes to emotional freedom, electromagnetic energy is probably the most powerful way to transform your life, your body, everything, everything, everything. Because I'll tell you why. That the cells of the body, generally there's a chemical that binds to a receptor, like a key that turns a keyhole, right? It's a chemical that binds to the receptor, and then it sends a message to the nucleus, and the nucleus then reads this transcription, this code, this genetic code is released, and then proteins are released, and this is how we behavior and your body functions through protein synthesis and transcription. But electromagnetic energy doesn't even have to go into the nucleus, into the receptor. It goes straight into the nucleus, and it creates genetic expressions instantly. Meaning that whenever we go through crisis or near death experiences or anything, we're like, you know what? I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm done. I quit. Whenever we have these moments of just when we've hit rock bottom or we've had enough, there's this, we conjure this spirit and we go, nah, enough is enough. And when it's almost like we conjure this energy, and in that energy, everything changes. Like people can quit smoking. you know some people need patches and this and that, but some people just, they can conjure the energy just to quit smoking, to quit this, to quit that, to change their lives. It happens over and over again. And you guys know what I'm talking about, is when we can conjure the spirit, the energy, the electromagnetic energy. We don't need anything. The placebo is so strong that it changes our biology, it changes us neurologically, it changes our energy, that we just, in that moment, we become a different person. It's funny how things change overnight when you're thinking right. One of my favorite sayings, that if you can get your energy right in this moment and you do it with authenticity and conviction, the sky is the limit. And I truly do believe that. And that's my placebo. And it doesn't have to be your placebo, but if I truly believe that, and belief is a very strong word, then that becomes my truth. That becomes my truth. And if I believe it and I embrace it, then that is what I keep in my field of experience. And everyone's placebo is different. You might be listening to this and thinking it's complete rubbish, or you might be listening to it going, I resonate with this information because it makes sense, and that's your placebo. And the placebo effect is a very, 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 very strong thing. Placebo, the anticipation or belief for a certain outcome can be so strong that it changes the physiological responses in the body. Your belief, when you believe something so strong, so strongly beyond reasonable doubt, no one can change that. You are changing it. Your body is changing. You are believing. One of the most beautiful, amazing things about being a human being is that the body doesn't know the difference between a fabricated thought or a real life event. Meaning that if you can go into your mind and fabricate an experience or a thought and you focus on it, the body will start to change its physiology like you're there. No different to that person waking up in the middle of the night thinking they've got a presentation tomorrow. Tomorrow hasn't happened yet. the public speaking, he's not in that moment yet, but he's fabricated this thought, this vision, and the body starts to then freak out. It's no different if I say to you, hey, Oscar, your car, it's not there. And I run out. It's like, oh, my car's gone. And my mate's like, haha, got you. Your car's, I parked it around the corner. But for a moment, through that concept, through that thought of my car not being there, for example, I just freaked out. Look at what I've just done to my body through a concept, through one thought. I've just freaked it the hell out just through a thought. And that's how powerful thoughts are. But we don't understand that because we're just kind of living these lives that, and we're just kind of thinking thoughts are so powerful. And thoughts are just an expression of your feelings, but they do carry a frequency. And the magic is in the feeling, right? And the point is that we start to discover our essence and our truth, and we go, one thing is great to understand the mechanisms and understand how the mind, the body works and acquire all these insights so we can really be at the front line before we start to, program negative beliefs or negative programs, or we start to become aware of these feedback loops and we can change all that. But understanding your energy and energy psychology and understanding the presence within and giving your body time to feel that every single day is so powerful, and I can't express that enough. And I need to do that more. So as I'm telling you guys, I'm telling myself that I need to do that more. I need to do that more. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here and allowing me to just express. I had all these things written out, but this conversation just went where it was meant to go. So hopefully you guys got something good out of this. And we are coming to time. I'll read some questions. Do you have a tip on how to stop believing the stories we are telling us? Absolutely, see. So look, if you know that a narrative has no truth, you have to have the willpower to go, this has no truth. And the truth is that I am a light of consciousness. I am potential. I love myself, and whatever story, like, believe what is authentic to you. And I think you really need to have the willpower, because willpower is something that you can exercise, and I think that we don't emphasize this so much. We don't emphasize this topic as much as we should. Willpower is everything. Willpower is why you get up every single day and and be positive. Willpower is what gets you up in the morning, you go to the gym. Willpower is what gets you on these lives to do the work and to contain all this amazing information. Willpower is why you go home and you become the most amazing parent to your kids. Everything is willpower. If you don't have the will, like, strengthening your willpower is to do things when you don't want to do it. When you don't want to do something, but you do it because it's going to be good for you or it's the right thing to do, that gives you strong willpower. So if you want to have the mental strength where you go, nah, don't believe it, that's good, take that, and you want to strengthen your willpower, next time you don't want to go to the gym, next time you don't want to do something, but that it's good for you, or if you go and whatever it is, do it and go against the programming, and that's going to start to develop your willpower. And the more times you can say yes when your body's being lazy and wants to say no, then that is going to really strengthen your willpower. Being the observer, yes. Look, the observer is great, because that is your true position, in my opinion, is that you are infinite awareness, being the observer. But you also have to be creative with life. You have to learn how to dance with life. You have to be the maestro of your own orchestra. You have to be the author of your own book. You have to be the Michelangelo of your own painting. You have to have the creativity to look at every experience and go, okay, right, how can I be the most loving, magnetized, empowered human being in this moment? How, and always challenge yourselves to be a better person, because the effort you put in today is the results you get tomorrow. Always challenge yourself to be a better person. And even if you don't want to be in that moment, again, that's willpower. Tell that person you love them. Tell that person you're sorry. Be the bigger person. Whatever it is, willpower. How about reprogramming your subconscious mind? Look, going back to the earlier examples, when you have a strong program, for example, going back to that example I told you guys at the start, where I've had a traumatic relationship, and now someone new is coming into my life, and I'm pushing them away because my body's trying to defend my feelings from being hurt. You have to be aware. If you're not aware, then you're just a victim of the subconscious, and then you're just kind of pushing this person away, the next person away, and you're self-sabotaging every relationship that is manifested into your life. Self-awareness, becoming aware of the program, and then if you've got a partner that can hold space for you, to really be like, you know what, I pushed you away and it's because of what I feel is A, B, like to really surface the conversation. And if you've got someone that can hold space for you, that's amazing. But if you don't, just talk to yourself about it. Like, why did I push that person away? Is it because I've been hurt? As soon as you start to link, the pieces of the puzzle, the whys, you start to strengthen your awareness, and you start to acquire new feedback loops. So next time, this person tries to get close to you, and you feel this resistance, you'll be like, okay, this is from my past experience. I'm projecting that into this future, into this present moment. I'm actually going to be open, and we change through new choices. So when we make new choices, we reinforce change, we force change. So, you know, it's not easy as thinking it. Sometimes you got to fight and all the resistance and make a new choice of letting that person in and becoming aware of why you're feeling uncomfortable and just breathing through it and giving yourself a chance to be okay, not being okay in that moment. And when you can do that over time, you'll start to then reprogram. I have agoraphobia and I have programmed avoidance behavior. I have agoraphobia. I don't even know what agoraphobia means, to be honest, Tracy, and have programmed avoidance. So at least whatever it means, at least you're aware that you programmed avoidance. So you're avoiding certain interactions, or you're avoiding large groups or social gatherings. So once you're aware of it, then it's a dark night of the soul. You're going to have to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation where you start to change the programming, and it's no different to if a dog's bitten you and you've been scarred from that experience, and now fast forward in the future, you're terrified over dogs. There's going to come a moment where you're going to have to pat a dog, even though you know how it all works, the programming, right? There's going to become a moment you're going to have to pat the dog, and you're going to have to go against that resistance. And once you pat that dog and the dog's like, oh my God, I love you, you're going to be like, okay, that wasn't so hard. You have to go through that sticky point at one stage to then the body to learn that, hey, this isn't that bad at all. So, that's how we reprogram. You have to stop going out or you get panic attacks. Again, look, panic attacks is, again, in my opinion, and I might be a little bit military in my teachings, is involuntary breathing, right? Like when you're, it's a form of, what do you call it? I've lost the word, but when we have a panic attack, we can't control or regulate our nervous system, right? So doing the breath work and really understanding how to regulate your nervous system is going to help you better handle panic attacks, because next time you do feel the panic, you have better control through all the breathwork sessions we've done to regulate your nervous system. And again, everything comes back to your nervous system. Now, I'm not saying this is the only way, but I'm saying that, again, going back to the dog example, there's going to have to be a point where you're going to have to face the uncomfortable. But you've got the knowledge, you've got the insight, you've got the breath work, you're well prepared now. And once you're well prepared, you can go there with all the right arsenal behind you to face that fear, to face the resistance. And we change by choosing differently, or else we can't change the paradigm unless we make that choice to go outside. Right. But again, you have to be prepared. You have to obviously have the confidence to regulate your nervous system. You have to have, the preparation by doing the breath work, and by understanding how to regulate your nervous system. And only then would you go outside, because you're properly prepared to face the panic attack. And when it does come and you go, and you can regulate your nervous system with confidence, then I think, you're invincible and you can do anything after that. But again, you have to be prepared, and you have to do the work. if that makes sense. And look, other people might have different approaches. Maybe my approach is a little bit military. I have been criticized that in the past, that sometimes my approach is a little bit harsh, but that's just the way I've learned in my past, and that's just the way that I try my best to be as delicate as I can. But everyone teaches things differently from their own personal experience. Look, I don't have any fancy letters next to my name. I can only teach you guys from what I've learned in my own life and what's worked for me, and you know, and I share that with passion, and it's I'm the living truth of that. And just because it worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you, you know. So always be open and always be very critical. You know, maybe majority of the things I say, you know, could be absolute BS, but you know, at the end of the day, you got to find your own truth and see what works for you. All right, guys. So that's about it for today. If you like this session and you want to resurface these conversations, let me know. Breathwork recommendation, just 30 breaths, three rounds. 3 rounds of 30 breaths, and I'm telling you now, your nervous system is going to go on vacation. Thank you, Ginger. Awesome. And we're about to go into a breathwork session. So I'm just going to quickly wrap up this session, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed the conversation, man. That hour and 20 minutes has just gone so fast. It's been fun. I love having these conversations with you guys. So I really am grateful for everything that you know I've been able to just share with you guys on this amazing platform. Thank you, Lisa. Says you're teaching and making me. Thank you so much, Lisa. I really am humbled with your beautiful words and support. It means a lot to me. So thank you for that. So yeah, after this session, we're going to be doing a breathwork session, guys. So 7 o'clock, 10 minutes. Tune back in. It's only going to be a half an hour session, so in and out, no talking. I'm just going to go straight into it. Breathwork, straight out. So you know, if you want to know what breathwork is, hang around for 10 minutes. I'm going to quickly end this session here. So thank you so much for being here and enjoying and just tuning in to this conversation and sharing your insights. It's been a very powerful session. And next week we'll be back with another powerful subject. We do once a week, whether that's emotional freedom or another subject. I did have a lot of requests to do on emotional freedom. But if you guys, you know, want me to cover a certain subject, just yell out and I'll do my best to cover that. So thank you for being here, guys. And until next time, Oska from StressFit. I'll see you guys in the next live. Bye-bye for now.